keeps on raising to the level and winning.
Wardley's got nothing to lose in this fight. If he loses, he's in the same position.
The only way that he wins the fight, Dalton, I think, is by if you drag him into a dogfight.
Are we knowing it's down to simply something as basic as he's got a puncher's chance?
Parker takes a better shot. Parker's better seasoned. Parker's more well schooled in every area. I don't think this 18 months is going to hurt him. If anything, I think it's probably helped him because he's going to be well rested now.
Do you get the impression, or do you feel that Usyk shafted Parker a little bit here?
I do, yeah. If you can't defend your WBO title, you've been undisputed, you have to give the guy a shot.
I think he is the next star of heavyweight boxing.
You don't think Moses beats Fabio Wardley?
Not so sure. Not so sure he does. See Deontay Wilder? Bring him over. Get him a fight with Wilder.
I think that Anthony's got a stellar career behind him, and I think that's where it is. It's behind him.
Do you think then he should retire off the back of that defeat?
Yeah.
You think he's done?
Done.
He shouldn't box on no more. If I'm totally honest, I think there's so much disrespect for Anthony Joshua.
If I get another promotional video with Saul Alvarez sent to me by Turkey Yellow Sheikh, I'm going to stick a spicy enchilada into my eyes. Are you going with Canelo?
I'm going for Canelo, yeah.
He could be the proud owner of being undisputed 3 times in 3 separate weight divisions. That signifies true greatness.
Oh, it's Dalton and him. They don't like each other. Look, I'll give credit where it's due. I think he's developed well. I still think he's nowhere near ready for me.
Welcome to episode 137 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Joining us today is the 3-weight world champion, Duke McKenzie, and also someone that many consider will be the next super lightweight champion of the world, and God knows we need one in this country, Dalton Smith. Nice to see you, Dalton. Thanks for joining us.
Too. Thank you.
October 25th, 02, Joseph Parker versus Fabio Wardley. Big fight, good fight. Before we start talking to you guys, let's listen to Fabio and Joseph on the show earlier with myself and Jim.
Our styles, you look at how we approach fights, and you just know when we get in the ring together, there's not really going to be either of us that's going to be too keen about taking a back step. So it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be drama one way or another.
Joseph, over 40 knockouts between the two of you.
Yeah.
Is this thing going the distance?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to go the distance. We'll be prepared if it does, but I don't think so.
He's not the same fighter that I went to watch and bored me to death against Anthony Joshua. He's a different animal now. Different animal completely.
For myself.
But I think where Joe is now, I mean, Joe is mandatory for the WBO shot.
We're going to bring in the night. What we're going to see then, Joe?
Like you said, fireworks. And Simon did mention that I like to throw my hands a lot more nowadays.
You ready for that, Fabio?
I've been throwing my hand since day dot. So
yeah.
Look, I think again, I've said it time and time again, but it's not one of those fights that need the drama of selling. The drama will come on fight night, and it will be dramatic one way or the other. There will be moments of that fight, of that night in of itself, where people go, "Oh, round 3 that happened, and round 7 this went on, and it was a back, and it was a fourth." And I think it is going to be very. I've been in one fight of the year, or one fight of the year once for the Frazer 1 fight, and I think this could throw us in the mix again.
Could be another.
Those two boys were absolute class when in the studio in terms of the way that they spoke. This is a great fight, Duke, isn't it? This is a fight for the fans, isn't it?
It's a good fight. It's past the sort of trade fight, if you will, Simon, because Fabio Wardley has come on in certain areas of his sort of like technique, but he's also gone behind in certain areas of his technique, which was proven in his last fight against, was it Hooney?
Justice Hooney.
Justice Hooney, right? Because he was exposed.
He was.
For his boxing skills. Yeah. I thought that he would sort of kick on before that, and he was going to really start producing some good classic boxing skills. But I think, like I say, I think he's actually, he relies on his power far too much. He hasn't brought enough to his game right now, and I thought he would have kicked on from that. If he's going to have any chance against Joseph Parker, then he can't just rely on that big right hand. Joseph Parker's a seasoned, well-schooled athlete.
Who hits hard.
Yeah, who hits hard. He's on a resurgence in terms of his confidence and where he is in boxing now, Parker. So it's a good fight.
I think what makes this fight so interesting is because what we found out last time out with Fabio Wardley and Justice Hooney is that Fabio's got a lot of character and he sticks in there and it's not over till it's over. And he was falling round after round behind. You go, a lot of fighters lose spirit, lose heart like that. He didn't lose spirit, lose heart, and he carries that punch right till the very end. At some point, Joseph Parker will have to engage with him and that will give him the opportunity. But great fight, man. I loved the interview earlier on, by the way.
Where are you with, Joe Parker, he can't wait around for Usyk, Kenny. He's got to take a fight.
Well, Alexander Usyk's out with a back problem.
Whilst
he's been given
dancing,
absolutely, yeah. So he's been given that extension. I love the fact that Joseph Parker goes, look, I'm next in line, so I could sit it out. But actually, I want to fight. I want to be active. Like you said, what's he had? Three rounds in 18 months?
Against Paulie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I respect the fact that he's putting it on the line because I do believe he's got more to lose in this fight. You know, it's a tougher road back for him.
I agree.
It's a win-win for Fabio Wardley because people are not expecting him to win. He's going in there and he loves being the underdog. He feeds off that. So you've got to respect both guys for putting it on the line with effectively out a world title on the line.
Dalton, have a listen to Joe Parker talking about inactivity last time he was on the show. You have had one round since March 24. Is it the right move for you to take this opportunity rather than having a fight in between it to get yourself into a situation where you're really in the zone?
That is a good question because I've had one fight in 2024, one this year, and activity is key. And he's been very busy, Usyk.
What is the reason behind you only having one round, Joe? Like politics of the sport?
I have no idea.
You've been knocking on the door.
I've been knocking on the door. I've been asking for any fight and every fight. Who knows? You know?
Dalton, ring rust. I mean, we've seen Fabio. He's been active. He's been in with 2 fights in the last 12 months with Frazer, Clarke. Been in recently with Justice Hooney. Whereas Joe Parker has not been in at all in terms of any real representation of Ring of Time. How much of ring rust is going to play a part in the potential opportunity that may be Fabio's, and how damaging will it be for Joe Parker to have not been active?
I mean, as a fighter for the development, you need to be active, and you know that's probably the way Wardley's developed. You know, he's been active. You know, stepped up the levels, but you know, especially when you're pushing towards the big fights like Joseph Parker, you need that activity, and you know, ring rust is a thing. Of course, it's all right being in the gym sparring, but you need that activity of fighting. You know, the whole process.
Which is better though. Can I ask all of you guys as fighters, the fact, because Fabio's been in wars. You know, he said, OK, he cleaned out Frazer, Clarke in one round, but the fight before that, last April, was an absolute battle for the ages. Mm-hmm. Justice Hooney, if Justice Hooney could have hit a bit harder, he might have taken Fabio out of that particular fight. Which is the worst ailment, being in battles like that, yet still winning, or not having fights and being slightly fresher, but having the ring rust?
I think that, like, being in battles and wars like that is like sort of, that does prepare you for the big night.
Right.
You know, you don't want to fight after fight, but it is good to go there so you are prepared for it, so that when it does get hard and it does get dark and you get put into that corner, you can come through that because you've had that preparation. So I think that is key, you know, with, you know, building up to a world title shot for sure. So that would have done him more good than harm, for sure, you know. And then last time out, that was a tough night for him last time out, but he showed a lot of character there as well. So it's all character building, builds him up for this big night, and he's going to need that against Parker because Parker is more seasoned than him. Mm-hmm. Parker has that experience over him. So I think that the preparation and the build-up, correct me if I'm wrong, for Fabio Wardley has been good going into this one for him.
Yeah, probably. The prep's been good, but like I say, it's quite alarming the fact that he was like a mile behind. And until he landed that lucky right hand, mm-hmm. right? And obviously I and the other guy out. So the question's got to be said, Parker takes a better shot. Parker's better seasoned. Parker's more well-schooled in every area. You would say Parker's, on paper, he's better than Hooney, on paper.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if Fabio Wardley's just reliant on that one shot, it's not going to come because Hooney didn't know how to close that fight out. Hooney could have run like a thief in a night on that last round and won a landslide decision.
So how does Joe Parker take this fight on? I mean, obviously, in every fight, the questions have been risen about Fabio. Constantly, you get the reference back to the white-collar boxing, right? He's moved past that now. He's now a professional fighter, right? But, you know, he's fought David Adelaide. People felt that was going to be too much for him. He dealt with David Adelaide. People felt that perhaps Frazer Clarke was going to be too much for him. He dealt with Frazer Clarke. People felt slightly differently in the fight against Justice Hooney, where I think, in real terms, Fabio was the favourite for that particular fight because he didn't know enough about Justice Hooney to make an informed opinion. With all that to one side, he keeps on raising to the level and winning. And I know you're saying that it was a lucky punch that got Justice Hooney out of there, and we were there, Spencer, and we felt the same thing. But how does Joe Parker approach this particular fight to get the outcome that he wants?
With Parker, surely, because he's such a seasoned professional, I don't think this 18 months is going to hurt him. If anything, I think it's probably helped him because he's going to be well rested now and chomping at the bit to get out and do a number on
But Dalton, like you said earlier on, though, that ring rust is key because activity is key. Like, you know, when you have that ring rust, doesn't matter how many rounds you put in with that sparring. It's about finding your timing and everything else. So that only goes, obviously, in favour of the other man, doesn't it, Fabio Wardley?
Of course, and I think it's about finding the balance as well. Obviously, Fabio's been in hard fights. Is that going to take more out of you than you're gaining? I think he probably does need an aspect of that for his experience, but you'd like to think Josie Parker's got enough experience under his belt now to, you know, prepare for a Fabio Wardley.
In preparation for this fight, the preparation that both these guys have had coming off the Hooney fight, obviously, and the inactivity and the blowout of Martin Bakole last time out for Joseph Parker, who would you say is better prepared going into this one?
You'd have to say Josie Parker with the rest. Like you said, Fabio's his last couple of fights, they've been tough. And you've got to question, has he gained or has that took something out of him? So,
is he at this level, Fabio?
We're going to find out.
That's a great question.
But what's your perception and given what you've seen from him over the last couple of years?
I think Parker's a little bit too seasoned for him. Parker's much better than Hooney, and Hooney gave him life and death, right? So Parker will know if he's 6-8 rounds up or whatever, he's going to get in front at some point. And I dare say, once he gets in front, he might go looking for the knockout. If he looks for the knockout, then he might get the knockout.
On, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think he'll walk onto one, Sam, because I think he's a little bit too smart for that.
Well, he did against Joe Joyce, though, didn't he?
Yeah.
I know it's a different version of him now, and Andy Lee's been very central in the change, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a much better, much improved fighter since the Joe Joyce fight. I think Parker, for me, right now, like I say, with the exception of Usyk, he deserves a world title fight.
And Ajit Cabello as well.
And Cabello.
Yeah.
But he's more than capable of becoming heavyweight champion of the world.
Is this the right fight for Fabio? Given that we're all, I think we all in the same place. I mean, our heart will go with Fabio, right? Because we want the Englishman to win.
Oh, sure.
But our head is probably going to veer towards Joseph Parker, right?
Absolutely.
I can speak as a collective.
Yeah.
So what do you think this is the right fight for Fabio then?
I think it's basically opportunity. And while they're waiting for those titles to fragment, you've got to respect that. So I think, it's a great fight because Parker is considered as one of the most dangerous heavyweights out there right now. Fabio's stepping up to the plate. So I do think it's a right fight for him at this stage because where else does he go? I wanted to ask you, actually, Dalton, do you think that
he keeps on building, Spencer? He keeps on building and learning his craft.
Of course he does. But I was going to ask Dalton a question. I say, do you think that he's good enough to win this on points, Fabio Wardley? Do you think he could win the fight on points, or do you think he needs the knockout?
I think the thing with Fabio is every time you've said he's not at this level, he's pulled something out the bag. You can't deny that. I've been on the opposite side of, saying he's going to win or not, and he's always pulled through. So, but for me, Wardley's got nothing to lose in this fight. If he loses, he's in the same position. Josie Parker's got everything to lose.
He won't approach that mentally, though, that way, will he? Because we were talking about it the other day, which is really and truly, given the fact we're probably a cross-section of opinions that are pretty much mirroring what most people think about this fight, he can go into this fight, lose this fight, and walk away with people saying, well, we kind of expected him to lose this fight anyway, so no lack of credit in that respect. And if he wins it, he's front of the queue for a world title shot. So there's nothing really to lose for him in this fight, is there?
Think it's
is that a dangerous place for him to be in mentally?
No, I think that he likes being the underdog. I think he feeds off that, and I think that's what he was saying in the studio with you earlier on. And I think it's a win-win for him because if he loses against Joseph Parker, one thing you can guarantee is he'll go out on his shield, and people love that, And I think that he will gain a lot of respect, win or lose, coming out of this fight for sure.
What do you think he'll take? I mean, Ben Davidson has the reputation of being a very good coach. We like Ben, he's been on the show. Obviously we've pulled him up about some of the things he said about Anthony Joshua in terms of roll the dice, and he corrected some of the thinking perhaps. I mean, what will he be seeking to change for Fabio? We're all talking about Justice Hooney. We went to that fight. It was meant to be a homecoming for Fabio in front of his fans. That might have added some additional pressure. But there were times during the fight that some of the limitations to the skill set that you talk about were shown up. Justice Hooney was a very good fighter, but lacked the power that Joseph Parker will carry. What will Ben Davison be seeking to do, Duke, based upon the performance that we've seen from Fabio that dealt with David Adelaide, and we saw David Adelaide coming up short against Filip Hrgovic, dealt with Frazer Clarke, dealt with Justice Hooney in a way that we all think is fortuitous, but Joseph Parker ain't none of those.
No, he's not. He's got to get in boxing more, surely. You know, because he's not going to be able to stand around, wait or get in, you know, let soak up the pressure and the power of Parker and then hope to turn it around late in the fight, because that late might not come because Parker is seasoned.
But Duke, I don't think you could get him to box more. That's his game. I think that he's got to try and drag Parker into a dogfight,
yeah,
because his limitations on boxing.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't see him finding those in the next month or so.
No, I get your point.
Think that the only way that he wins the fight, Dalton, I think, is by if you drag him into a dogfight and try and get Parker to be too greedy. If Parker switches off for a second, it turns into his fight. And I think that, when you come into skill set, his limitations, there's only one way he can win this fight, right?
Yep. No, I agree. But like you say, Ben's a good coach, and I think, especially from his last performance, you've got to sit down, look at that fight and study what he struggled with and try and adapt around it. That's the only way of improving. And like you say, his boxing ability is not at the highest standard, but somehow we always pull something out of the bag, so it's working for him.
So are we narrowing it down without wanting in any shape or form to be disrespectful to Fabio? Are we narrowing it down to simply something as basic as he's got a puncher's chance?
I think that might be slightly harsh. I think that he's just got to turn the fight into his fight. That fight is by getting that Parker to stand there and have a trade with him. He's got to try and catch Parker early, and that's where he's at with it. If Parker keeps him at range the way he wants him to and chooses when he wants to sit in the pocket, it's going to be a tough night for Wardley. Yeah. But if Wardley can make it into his type of fight, he's got a great shot.
I mean, both.
How does he do that?
That's the point.
How does he? You see, because when I see Parker, like I say, we all know how seasoned he is. We all know how good he's been of late, which is why I don't see him slipping up. He's not going to get drawn into a punch-up unless he wants to. Unless he knows he's got your man there on the hook and he can finish him, then he's going to go after him. But if that doesn't happen, he'd be prepared to box for as long as it takes to get the decision.
That's what they've got to figure out, because that's the only way that he wins. He has to draw him in. And you go, that's down to Wardley, the team, Ben Davison, to come up and try and execute that game plan.
I mean, both fighters said, before I close out the subject on these two, both fighters said that this doesn't see the 12th round, this doesn't see the final bell. I think there's a distinct possibility it does see the 12 rounds, because there's no reason why Joseph Parker needs to get involved in a shootout. So given the fact he's the technically better boxer, we all know Joe Parker is a very technically good boxer. The big question about Joe, leading up to when he fought Anthony Joshua, was does he let his hands go enough? Now we see him doing precisely that, and a lot of currency has been made out of the wins against Zhilei Zhang, who went on to lose against Ajit Kabiel, against Deontay Wilder. But this isn't necessarily just a fight that's going to be... I mean, I know we want to hear that, and the boxers are talking about it, and both of them are very calm and composed, but they're both talking about a fight that doesn't hear the final bell. I think there's a distinct possibility that Joe Parker wins at some points.
I think that it does go that way. I think that both guys show incredible durability. They know, they can keep themselves, they can keep themselves calm when they've been under pressure. When they've been on the floor, they can regroup. And I think that, I think there's a great chance we see the final bell with these two.
Yeah.
They may both touch down, by the way. Yeah. It's one of those sort of fights. But I think we could see the final bell.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to levels. I just think that Parker's boxed at a higher level.
I made the point a little while ago about Usyk and the potential fight against Joe Parker and the motivations to take it. And we all talked about the fact, he's fought these guys, he's fought Fury, he's fought Joshua, he's fought Daniel Dubois. Why does he need to go back in the ring? He's beaten everybody. And I made the point about Usyk when he did an article a couple of years ago, Duke, he talked about the opportunity that Anthony Joshua gave him and how everything came from that particular opportunity, and he was never forgotten that. And I thought that, given that sort of code that Usyk has of decency and integrity, that it'd give Parker the shot. Do you get the impression, or do you feel that Usyk shafted Parker a little bit here?
I do, yeah. I mean, with the video evidence that emerged with him dancing at that festival and whatnot, and I know that the WBO have now asked him for evidence of this injured back, medical evidence. You just look at it and you go, look, all right, he wants to... I understand he wants to buy a little bit of time, but the rules are the rules, and mandatories are in place for a certain reason. That's why we don't get Undisputed coming along a lot. And I just feel, guys, like, all right, he's coming off a good win and he's had a tough run, but still the rules are the rules. And you go, if you can't defend your WBO title, you've been undisputed, you have to give the guy a shot or let him fight for the vacant title. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah. I think that otherwise you go, oh, he's a great champion, so because he's a great champion, we're allowing him to have a little bit of breathing space. I just don't see that's the right decision.
Maybe that's what they're doing. They're giving him a longer extension. to make up his mind who he wants to fight and when he wants to fight.
Well, he said he was injured.
Yeah.
And so they've asked him for medical evidence now. He said
What do you think,
he
Dalton?
had a bad back.
You've got an active fighter in yourself. You've got an active fighter in Joe Parker, and you've got Usyk telling everyone he's injured. If you were in Parker's shoes, what would your view be of it all?
Of course, Parker's going to be frustrated. That's the fight every heavyweight fighter's chasing. But then you've got to also, I think you've also got to put yourself in Usyk's shoes. Like you say, he's fought everybody. He might have a legitimate injury. Like you said, we've seen a video of him dancing and fighting a 12-round fight are two completely different things. And like you said, at the end of the day, you've got to allow fighters the human at the end of the day. They're not puppets. And like you say, until you've got the evidence, you don't know what Usyk's got. And like I said,
pack it in, Spencer, and be a little bit less mean-spirited.
Not being mean-spirited, I'm just saying the rules are the rules. And if he can't provide the evidence, then it is what it is. And
absolutely.
if he can, then fair play.
Well, the loss of that particular opportunity gives us, notwithstanding that, a great fight between Parker and Wardley. Spence, Frank Warren's been talking about Moses Itauma and a potential another headline fight in December. You know anything about that?
Yep, December the 13th, I believe it is, that Moses Itauma, we see him out again. They want a big-name heavyweight. It's one of those with Moses, isn't it? Like, you look at him, and his last 8 or 9 fights, he's been something like 12 rounds. And you go, where is the ceiling for him to get those rounds before he steps up to that another level? You're right, Hrgovic, Ajagba, you're looking Frank Sanchez, them sort of names now where you go, he's stepping into that elite level, maybe just below elite level, but he needs someone now to give him the rounds before he takes that final step into that. Zhilei Zhang's another great name. But that's where you're talking now, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think it's all about treading water, isn't it, with that young man? They've still got to be careful because we still don't know just how good or how bad he is. I don't want him to get beat, Simon. I want him to go and clean up the heavyweight division.
Absolutely.
But we still need to see the test.
Is Hrgovic the test, though? Like, let's say Hrgovic gets over that cut. It was a horrendous cut, and I'm not sure he'd be ready.
Can't see it.
I'm not, but let's just say in a fantasy world, Hrgovic was that guy that he was fighting next in December. Do you think that would be the right sort of move? Is that where he needs to be?
Safe fight, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to take anything from the Dillian White fight. Obviously, he did it quicker than I expected, but I think like someone along the levels of Hrgovic. But for me, I think Itauma is the real deal. I think he is.
That's what I was going to ask you. Where are you on Moses Itauma?
I think he is the next star of heavyweight boxing. I've seen him develop through the amateurs and what he's doing as a professional, but of course, as a fighter and a fight fan, you need to see those tests, and I think the likes of a Hrgovic is next. But
if you put, given the fact we've just been talking about Fabio Wardley or Joseph Parker, you put Moses Itauma in with either of these two. Does he beat these two?
So which are we talking about?
Talking about Fabio Wardley and Joe Parker. So I'm saying to you that obviously we've got Joe Parker fighting Fabio Wardley, but Moses Itauma, real deal, coming on. Who do we match him against? But just as a sidebar, in this fight, does he beat either those or both of those?
Not so sure he beats Parker. Still think that might be just a little bit bridge too far for him. I'm not even so sure about Fabio Wardley. Because Wardley, he's a stayer. And you know he's going to be in that fight till the last bell.
You don't think Moses beats Fabio Wardley?
Not so sure. Not so sure he does. Yeah, listen, what
Really?
Wardley has proven is he's a massive puncher. He's got a heart as big as a bucket. Might not be the best boxer in the world, but it doesn't matter who he goes in against. He's going to fight till the end. We don't know that about Moses Itauma just yet. We don't know what the ticker's like. We don't know if he's got.
What do you think to that? Do you agree with that, Dalton?
No, I believe Itauma beats them. But the only thing with Itauma is you might have the world-class talent and everything, but as a fight you've got to develop. You might have everything in the basket, but until you've been in a 12-round fight and got that under your belt, you've got to know to pace yourself.
What about putting a wild hat up your arse and suggesting would he beat Anthony Joshua? Quick.
Why did you throw that question at me? You go, look, who knows where he's at right now? I think that, he's got the capabilities to beat any heavyweight out there right now, that is for sure. But jumping off the back of what Dalton said there, you go, you do need to develop as a heavyweight, because when you get into those penultimate rounds, when you get into like 9, 10, 11, 12, and it becomes hard, and it becomes a psychological battle over a physical battle, and the technicalities go out of a fight, that's when you find out the makeup of a fighter, and we don't know that yet. And, you know, if we put him in against, let's use Hrgovic as an example, and Hrgovic weathers the early storms and he comes through and he's still there around 9, then we get the answers that we need from Moses and Itauma. So until then, it's all speculation.
Do you know,
we're just guessing on stuff.
Who I think is a good example of that is Daniel Dubois.
Yeah.
Early on in his career, who did he fight? Joe Joyce. If you put a Daniel Dubois then to Daniel Dubois now against that's the same Joyce. I think it's a different fight. That was just how he was allowed to develop.
So I'll ask you this question. Would you put Moses Itauma in with Daniel Dubois next if that was the fight that would happen? Let's say this December date that comes up, because that's a possibility.
To what end?
Well, I'm just saying, like Daniel Dubois on the comeback trail, they're both under Frank Warren, and they may say, right, listen,
No,
Daniel.
I wouldn't. Would you?
No, I'm just saying.
Absolutely not.
No, I'm saying, do you think Moses has got the capability of beating someone like Daniel right now?
I don't know why you'd take that risk at this stage with either one of them. You're trying to. Frank's got both of them in his stable. He's trying to rebuild Daniel. So why fling him in against Moses Itauma?
Just ask.
And no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
As a commercial proposition, as a fight, I think it would be an interesting fight. But if I was handling either one of those fighters, you wouldn't do that.
No, not at all. It's too dangerous to fight.
So where do we go? That's the question. Like, the $1 million question is where do you go? Like, we're talking about Hrgovic, we're talking about Frank Sanchez, Jagbar, all those type of guys.
I'll tell you what, put him in tomorrow. See Deontay Wilder? Bring him over. Get him a fight with Wilder.
And he flattens Wilder.
I know he flattens it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know,
Is there any benefit in a David Adelaide?
Good shout.
It's a fair fight. It's a fair fight, but again, it's one that I think Itauma wins.
Yeah.
You know?
But
that would
David hit back.
Yeah. That's not a bad fight.
Yeah.
In actual fact, that's probably his level where he is right now. With due respect to David Adelaide, who didn't look great in his last fight.
No, he
but
didn't.
at least with Adelaide, you know, if he fights Adelaide's going to come to fight.
Well, he looked good in the 8th round after he got himself off the floor, but he left it too late, didn't he?
Much too late.
I think Adelaide is durable enough to give him a few rounds, and then we get the questions that we need answering.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what all we're banking on at the moment is, can he do the distance?
Yeah.
Can he bite down on his gum shield?
Yeah.
And can he take himself into those later rounds? Apart from that, you go, he's head and shoulders above everyone, right?
Yeah, sure.
Dalton, I want to ask you, I mean, Eddie Hearn's been talking about AJ and his future. And now AJ's been out of the ring for a year. We've heard the fact that he didn't take the Dubois rematch because ultimately he was injured. We've heard him being spoken about in terms of Tyson Fury. That doesn't happen because of the fact that the two fighters, or Tyson Fury is retired. We've heard about it with Jake Paul and that particular fight. I mean, I've made my views on Anthony pretty clear. I think that Anthony's got a stellar career behind him, and I think that's where it is. It's behind him.
Yeah.
And I think that potentially he should be looking at himself saying, I've made a lot of money, I've got a huge reputation, I was 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, jobs are good, I've done my bits. Where are you on the AJ?
I agree with you on that one. For me, I'm a big AJ fan. Obviously, coming through the GB squads with AJ, obviously he was professional, but I think AJ's achieved what he's set out to do. You know, he's achieved the pinnacle of boxing, he's earned enough money for the rest of his life, his grandkids, and what more does he need to do?
Can he go out though with that loss though, in the manner that he's gone out?
I don't think he wants to go out with a loss. I think that he's still got things that he wants to fulfil in his career. That one of them is boxing.
You think he should retire?
Boxing out in Africa? No, I don't think he should retire. No, I think he should. I think that he wants to go out on a win. He deserves that, by the way. He deserves a fight with, let's say, Deontay Wilder over in Africa. Fulfill something that he wanted to do.
For what end? He doesn't need the money.
Why should he retire though?
But I'm asking you why he should continue. He doesn't need the money.
It's not about money.
He gets nothing from fighting Deontay Wilder because everyone thinks Deontay Wilder is done now. So what does it achieve for him?
Do you think Fury should retire then?
If he wants to.
Well, but the point is that's the point. If
think
AJ wants to, AJ doesn't want to retire. That's the point. It's not about money. It's not about that.
But Tyson Fury hasn't been ironed out. Anthony Joshua was.
But he's been beat twice. The same thing. A loss is a loss. What I'm saying is
AJ. Is it?
Oh no, it's not Spence.
No, but AJ's not got.
Depends on how you lose, doesn't it?
Yeah, but because he lost the way he done to do. Do you think then he should retire off the back of that defeat?
AJ.
Yeah. You think he's done?
Done.
He shouldn't box on no more. Do you think he should box?
I think the only fight that Fury and AJ need to come back for is between those two.
Yeah.
That's the only fight They deserve the people.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So there is a fight out there for him. And by the way, the Deontay
but you weren't
Wilder fight is
advocating for
still
that
out there.
minute ago. You were talking about a Jagbo or someone else in Africa.
No, well, for AJ. I didn't say a Jagbo.
Or Tony Yoka. Tony Yoka.
Or Tony Yoka as a comeback fight before he fights
Right.
Tyson Fury. Okay. And because he needs that activity. I think if I'm totally honest, I think there's so much disrespect for Anthony Joshua, and he doesn't deserve that. And do you know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. That's why I'm fighting his corner.
Is it? Right, fine, okay, fabulous. So, Canelo Crawford this weekend. Let's kick off with a big fight.
Every once in a while, the impossible becomes improbable. The birth of a new legend. They don't come around every day.
Omaha, Nebraska, stand up. Crawford!
They take time, find their place. One step, then another. The punch leads to purpose.
Fighting out of Omaha, Terrence Crawford.
And when purpose consumes everything else, that hunger becomes fate. Now what was once improbable becomes inevitable. Two legends from different corners of the world both share the same story. But only one will walk away remembered.
The undisputed super middleweight champion of the world.
That every once in a while now becomes once in a lifetime.
As enthusiastic as I am towards this fight, if I get another promotional video with Saul Alvarez sent to me by Turki Al-Sheikh, I'm going to stick a spicy enchilada into my eyes. This is a big fight, Spence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the biggest fight in boxing right now, for sure, for so many reasons. I think that what Terence Crawford is trying to achieve by jumping up another weight division and beating a modern-day great in Canelo is something quite remarkable. You know, you go back to Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, them sort of days, and I think if he pulls off the unthinkable and does that, he goes down as one of the greatest to ever do it, for sure. I mean, Terence Crawford's body transformation, by the way, going into this one is insane.
Phenomenal.
And yeah, it's I can't wait.
Did you ever think that we'd see these two guys in the ring, Dalton?
Anything's possible in boxing, especially at the stage right at the minute, like with Turkey and the Saudis involved. But like you say, we never thought we'd see Conor Ben Eubank, and that happened. So I think anything can happen in boxing.
Before we get into discussing who's going to win and who's not going to win, have a listen to Paulie Malignaggi talking last week on the show. He had some pretty strong and interesting things to say about this fight.
It's interesting because I think that the only dynamic that makes this fight competitive, in my opinion, is the difference in weight class. I think Canelo has been, for a while, a diminishing fighter. Call it age, call it whatever other things you want to call it. But I just think that, the only reason he's even still around at this level is because he's avoided his top contenders in his weight class, so he's been able to still remain champion at that weight class. And now, being champion at that weight class, it has sort of brought up this big opportunity to fight a smaller, excellent world champion in Terence Crawford. So I think when it comes to the levels of boxing, just straight from boxing perspective, I think Crawford is head and shoulders above Canelo. But, they do make weight classes for a reason. Canelo is still very strong. He's a good body puncher, and he's a bigger guy naturally. So that does bring a bit of a risk to the table. I think Crawford can win the fight. I just wonder whether he can get a decision. That's always the question with Canelo, right? Can Canelo get a decision? I mean, can Crawford get a decision over Canelo? Can anybody get a decision over Canelo? We know Bivol did, but Bivol essentially won a 10-2, 11-1 fight, and they barely gave it to him.
Yeah, good point.
Spence, I think it's fair to say when we listen to Paulie, and Paulie doesn't pause for breath, and you get a whole deluge of information and opinion, and most of it's brilliant to listen to, whether you agree with it or not. He was very cutting about Canelo. And we talked about, I do think he avoided Benavidez, and I think you probably think the same as well.
100%.
Do you think Paulie's comments, that was just a snapshot of it. He was harder and longer at certain parts of the interview. We went even deeper on it.
He did. Look, Canelo's achievements speak for themselves. You see, he's been around a long, long time, 20 years as a pro, and he's beat some of the best fighters out there for sure. I think that Paulie there is referring to him avoiding Benavidez, the fight that everyone's wanted to see and wanted to make. He's been picking and choosing his own opponents. And he has had some easy options. And he gets an opportunity to go in against Terence Crawford, or Terence Crawford gets the opportunity to go against him. Look, whatever way you want to look at it, I think that you cannot deny how good Canelo has been. He has adapted. He's had to adjust. He now, he stalks forward, he hunts his prey, but he single shots to the body, single shots to the head. And that's why I think timing for Terence Crawford here could be
Duke, me and Spence have got Terence Crawford. How do you think this fight is won and lost?
Yeah, I think this fight is won for Crawford by sticking to his boxing, which he does beautifully. From the outset, I thought Crawford would win this fight simply because
you're in our game.
He's a great boxer, right? He switches from left to right effortlessly. He's a good stayer. He's got that spite that you need as a champion. What he's done has been done before, albeit many moons ago with Sugar Ray Leonard when he moved up and boxed Donnie Lalonde from welterweight to super middleweight, but he stopped off in between that and boxed Marvellous Marvin Hagler. So that's probably a harder route even still, but I feel that it's a stone difference. It's not really that much, not when you look at the bigger picture. A stone in weight is a lot of weight, of course it is. And, sometimes you don't even want to give away a pound in weight, but the fact that he's putting on a stone of pure muscle, he's going to be so strong for this fight. And what we saw when Crawford boxed Spence, it was a boxing masterclass. He needs a stellar performance like that. And
although some would say that the Errol Spence that went into the ring with Terence Crawford was an Errol Spence that came off the back of a car crash, wasn't quite the same fighter.
Well, I mean, that's there to be. That debated. Was the case, that was the case. But Crawford still went in there and done an absolute beautiful.
Where are you on this, Dalton? Who do you like for this fight?
I'm probably a little bit biased because I love Canelo. I do think he's going to win the fight, but again, I won't be surprised if Crawford does it.
So what do you think of Paulie Malignaggi's comments? I mean, he was disparaging. You've heard a snapshot of it, but he was pretty much saying that Saul Alvarez has picked some of the fighters that he wants to fight, avoided the ones that he doesn't want to fight, and has let a lot of people down in doing it.
Yeah, you can see where he's coming from, but they also said it about Mayweather. They always said, Mayweather got everyone at the right time, and I think you've just got to look at Canelo's accolades, what he's done, what he's achieved. You can't take nothing away from that. But same again, don't matter what you achieve, someone's always really.
So where are you going? Are you going with Canelo?
I'm going for Canelo, yeah.
Do you think despite the fact that we are waxing lyrical about Crawford, do you think that he has, in his journey, fought someone of the calibre of Saul Alvarez?
I think it's a big step up for him. You look at the way that he's jumped through the weight divisions, going back to 2014, was it, when he beat Ricky Burns over in Scotland as a lightweight?
And announced himself,
Absolutely, the way he's gone through. I think the standout performance for him is the Errol Spence performance, because going into that fight, it was considered a 50-50, and it was. I agree with the boys. It was the manner that he schooled Errol Spence. That you go, it's all right. It's easy us to judge after. Go, well, Errol Spence is not the guy. He'd been through a car crash. He didn't seem like a guy. But before that, you're going, who wins? And it was the manner that he'd done it with the pressure on his shoulders going in there. You go, he will go down as an all-time great. I went, that was one of the best performances I've seen in a boxing ring in recent years. Yeah, for sure.
Canelo's not. This isn't the same Canelo that beat Miguel Cotto. It's not the same as Canelo that beat Kovalev. If you look at maybe 5 or 6 of his what we call stellar performances from Canelo, this isn't the same guy anymore. It's one thing beating guys like Cotto and, like I say, and Kovalev, but then when you start going down and look at his last 4 or 5 defences, take nothing away from John Ryder, take nothing away from anybody else of that level that he's boxed, but he's been bloody.
Skell.
Yeah, that Scully, Skell, whatever his name was. Yeah, I mean, those guys were taken in distance. Belanga, another one. Do you see what I mean? Hamza Shiraz blew that kid out the water, and yet he took Canelo the distance.
I think what we've seen from Canelo's recent performances and the adjustments and the way that he's had to adapt to, because he's had that long career, is when he's stalking forward and he's throwing those single shots, that won't be enough against Crawford. And I think that everyone's sort of buying into this. Well, we'll wear Crawford down, and Crawford, it'll be too big for him, and he'll get him late. You go, well, I don't see that, because Crawford is proven to be tough. He can sit in the pocket. He does switch effortlessly from south to southpaw to orthodox.
And he won't run, Spence.
And he won't run, but when he has to, he can bite down as well.
Yeah, he'll bite down, and he'll fight
So
back.
I just think he's got the extra edge in speed, combination punching, and that will see him over the line.
I think he's going to shock Canelo with his power.
Is this fight? I mean, with the merit of these two fighters and the scale of this fight, obviously you guys as fighters and me on the periphery of the industry, but very interested in what goes on. It's very visible to us, but it doesn't seem to be quite capturing the imagination over here. Are you surprised by that?
I think if you go stateside, it's a huge fight. Canelo's massive over there. That's where he's based himself in Vegas. All the big fights are going over there, and as well for Crawford. But yeah, it hasn't gone as global as maybe it should do. I think it's more for the purists. I think that people appreciate they are number 1 and 2, arguably, in the world. Whatever way you want to look at that, throw Inouye's name in the mix as well. But I'm just saying right now, and I go, it's all about characters, isn't it? Like, they're not huge characters, personalities outside of the boxing ring. I think you have to appreciate what they've done inside the ring. But I think that it captures a global audience when you're a bigger character.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where they're at. But they're both quite respectful guys. Quite reserved.
Even the Canelo of today, the fading Canelo, as I see him, is still a handful for anybody.
Absolutely.
With the exception of a Crawford, who I believe is special.
He's an elite fighter.
You can look at world champions and you go, you know what, it's great being a world champion. You got a world championship belt.
Yeah.
When you're undisputed, Simon, potentially for the third time,
it's the cream of the crop. Yeah.
He's going to earn. He could be the proud owner of being undisputed 3 times in 3 separate weight divisions. That signifies true greatness.
Just to finish off this part, do you think either one of them, the victor of this fight, whoever they may be, can lay claim to being the pound for pound? Dalton?
I think so, yeah. I think everything's there to name them pound for pound.
Well, Crawford must be able to, mustn't he? I don't think Canelo can he?
If Crawford becomes a 3-time undisputed world champion, then he's pound for pound the best fighter. Oh, Jesus Christ. What an unbelievable achievement.
He goes down not just pound for pound as the best fighter of today, but he'll go down as one of the greatest ever of all time, all weight divisions. Yeah. 3-time undisputed is unheard of. Like 5-weight world champion, 5-weight world champion, and 3 times. I know.
Listen, it's just
insane.
Is it going to live up to the billing, boys?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do.
Look forward to it. Right, let's spend some time talking about you.
Yeah.
World title shot coming up. Sabril Mateus.
Yep.
Tell us about it. Puerto Rico, Riyadh.
Yep. Puerto Rico. It's looking like Puerto Rico. We should know this week. Once contracts and stuff are sent over. But yeah, WBC world title next.
How do you feel about travelling over to Puerto Rico? Because that's a tough night against Mateus in his own backyard. How do you feel about that?
Look, I said before, I wouldn't be bothered if it was Sheffield, Puerto Rico, America. Look, when you're a fighter who's dreamt of that from a young age, going to someone else's backyard, I think that's the best way to do it.
What did you take from his performance against Paulie last time out? He was an underdog going into that one, but he showed us that he's relentless in his attacks. He's heavy-handed as well. What did you take from that?
I thought it was a close fight, definitely. It was entertaining, but I seen weakness in both of the fighters. Take nothing away, they're great champions, they're great fighters, and it's going to be a very hard fight.
But how have we gone? I mean, I know you're not bothered about it, and commendable that it is the case. But we all know about home field advantage and officials in different countries. How have you gone from a face-off in Riyadh to the guy's backyard in Puerto Rico? I mean, I know you're not worried and you'll fight them wherever you have to fight, and commendable that is. But it also adds a layer of jeopardy to the situation in terms of fighting against a partisan crowd, potentially having judges being influenced by a partisan crowd. How have you got yourself in a situation where you have to have this fight in Puerto Rico?
I think we went to purse bids.
Right.
His side won the purse bids. We said, hey, dictate. The way I'm seeing this fight is I'm the challenger. I've got to go and fight for what I want in this situation, and it's out of my hands, it's out of my control. I've just got to go and do what I do best, and that's fight.
It's a great way of looking at it, by the way, because when you are the challenger, you're not holding any.
The ball's
cards,
not in my court.
Yeah, exactly.
Once I go over there and take the title, then the ball's in my court.
Why this route for this particular champion? You've got Richardson Hitchens, you've got Gary Russell, you've got Teofimo Lopez. I mean, Teofimo Lopez is right up there with the top fighters in the world. Why have you taken this particular route for this particular champion?
I always said if I could fight for one world title, it'd be a WBC. The green and gold. And I know how boxing works at the minute. You can go international routes, do a few loopholes to get yourself in a position. From the start of my career, I said I want to do it the traditional way, go through the British, Commonwealth, European. I'm confident in my abilities. I want to be known as a real fighter. And if you believe in yourself,
you back yourself.
You back yourself.
Is this your first trip abroad? Is this your first?
Second as a professional, but like people forget as well, I've been on the Great Britain team for 5 years. I've travelled around the world and I know what it's like to travel and fight. Obviously, it's different scale, but it's the same.
When you do that traditional route where you go British, Commonwealth, European, WBC silver and all that, and you're getting that international experience as well, that is the grounding that you need. That is the preparation you need before going to fight someone like Mateus, who's known to be tough, you know, known to just keep coming forward and whatnot. But you have to have those fights, and you've done that.
But beatable, by the way.
So it is your time. Oh, he's very beatable. Yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, Dalton knows it's going to be tough, whatever way you look at it, with home advantage as well for this other guy. You go, but you've got. What I'm saying is, you've had the grounding, the preparation that you need. You've done your apprenticeship.
Of course, I believe in myself, and I'm a real fighter. You know, I'm not here to, you know, dance around. You know, I'm a real fighter. I've done it. I've never picked who I want to fight. Whatever belt I've said I want to fight for next, I've fought whoever's been there. And that's the way I'd like to have done it.
Is it been slightly frustrating for you that it's taken this amount of time? Because 18 fights in, Josh Taylor wins the world title after 15 fights.
Yeah.
So you're now 18 fights, your 19th fight will be a world title. Is that because you've wanted to go a certain route and wanted to collect other things on the way? Or is there any other reasons why it's taking you this amount of time to get to a point where you're fighting for a world title? Just
because I had time on my side. You know, I'm 28 now. I think that's the perfect age to fight for a world title. And like when we said with the Itauma, you've got to allow yourself to develop. Nobody comes world level overnight. It's about developing, having the right fights, going through the levels, and that's what I've done. You know.
Would you say that Mateus's style is better suited for you, as opposed to Russell, as opposed to Lopez? You know, the other champions?
I think they're all hard in their own way.
Yeah, sure.
Especially in the 140 division, that's the talent what's in. You know, I think it's one of the hardest weights.
But styles make fights, right?
Styles
Do you think this style is more stylistic suited better for you? Because Gary Russell is more of a box puncher, say.
Yeah.
Lopez is more flamboyant, isn't he?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think it's probably a more physical fight.
Yeah. But that'll suit you better.
But it'll suit me, 'cause, like you said, there's two blueprints how to beat him already. There's not one of me at the minute. And look, the way I see it, the last time he fought in his hometown, you know, he didn't come away with a win. So,
what do you think of Mateus?
Yeah, he's a handful. There's no doubt about that. He's a handful, and you know he'd be buoyed by the fact that the fight is in his backyard. His last fight wasn't that great, so he'll be looking to put on a great performance if he can. Do you know what I mean?
I think
a lot will depend on.
Mateus,
on the approach.
Well, he's a two-time champion, isn't he?
Yeah.
He had the IBF as well,
He's a tough guy, mate. There's no getting away from that. He's a heavy-handed, tough guy. He can be a little one-dimensional at times as well. But the most important thing, and I think what you're going to take away from it, is he is very beatable. Yeah. You know, if you get the tactics right, and you have to get the tactics right with someone like that, but you slip into any sort of rhythm with him, like you just wonder, has he got the capabilities to adjust himself? I don't think he has. I think what he does, he is what it says on the tin.
Oh, no,
see what he does. He's one-dimensional. He comes forward. He's heavy-handed, and he's relentless.
Yeah, he's off.
But if you can get into some sort of rhythm, it's a winnable fight for sure.
How do you think you've developed over the last 18 months? I mean, your last fight was against Matteo Germain.
Yep.
Dropped him twice. I mean, when you look at your development over the last year, how do you think you've gone? I mean, I was impressed with the performance against Jose Cepeda, which I think was a decent win for you, and a much more recognisable name. Go back to the question, how do you think you've developed? I
think I've developed well. Had the right fights at the right times. Like I said, allow myself to develop and mature into an all-round fighter. And I said this would be the year where, you know, I'll be ready for a world title, and, you know, I've got myself in a position, and I said, it's time to come.
Tell us about your relationship with your father. I mean, all I hear is very positive things about your father.
Yeah.
In an age where we're seeing some challenges with fighters and their fathers, we're seeing the controversy rage about the situation with Stan Dubois and Daniel Dubois in terms of the judgment calls that were made before the fight against Usyk. We've seen the on-off relationship between Chris Eubank Sr. and Chris Eubank Jr. and the influence that Sr. seems to want to have over his son. Talk to us about your relationship with your dad.
You know, I think first of all, father and son relationships in boxing, they either work or they don't. You can't make them work. And
Joe Calzaghe and his father.
Exactly, and you know that's why I'm a big fan of Joe. Exactly.
Was a great combination. I think it does. Like if you get it, and your dad is a great trainer, by the way. Not to say it because you're sitting here. He's a fantastic trainer.
And I think, like you said, my dad knows me better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And people forget me and my dad got into boxing at the same time. So what my dad knows now is what he's learned in the time we've both been in boxing. And you know, I think that in itself is remarkable. But my relationship with me and my dad, it's father-son, but it's also coach boxer. You know, you've got to take the father-son. You can't have a father-son relationship. You know, like you say, you'll see other people out there with the fathers and stuff, and it feels weird. 'Cause it's like I don't get that with my dad, but I accept it because that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we've allowed the relationship. It has to be like
How difficult is that to separate that, by the way? Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, you walk out the gym, your father's son, but in there, like you say, it's business. How difficult is that?
I don't know any different.
Is it just a switch? I mean, because I'm just trying to process that. Is it just like a switch when you get in there and it's business?
It's just how the relationship's probably evolved over the years. Sometimes you'll sit and be like, oh, I wish I had this, but I've got more from boxing. I'll get more from boxing, and I'll thank my dad for that later on in life.
If there was a point, it's a difficult question to ask, or sorry, to answer, a not difficult question for me to ask. If there was a point where either you or your father felt the best scenario was to change direction because you needed to go to a different level or have a different voice, would that be a difficult decision to make? Or are you programmed between yourselves to separate between father and son and talk about this as a commercial best outcome situation?
There's only ever been one instance where my dad didn't have as much involvement in my career, and that's as an amateur, travelling the world, Great Britain. And me as a fighter went backwards. I didn't realise that. You know, my dad used to say it, and I'd be like, nah, it's because he's not in these controlling. But you know, you look back and it's true. You know, my dad knows me better than anybody else. My dad, I always said, you could give my dad an average fighter, train him, and I'd give him a good chance, he'd give me a good fight. Do you know what I mean? My dad knows how to, he's, like you say, he's probably the guy who knows how to beat me best.
I think he's proven, isn't he? Not just with yourself, but you look at the other fighters that he's been involved with.
Well, I think you look at this weekend with Mick Conlan.
Yeah.
Everybody's writing Mick Conlan off, and you know, the thing with my dad, if he cares for you, he'll invest and spend time with you. You know, you'll never see my dad on cameras, you'll never get him in a studio like this. All he cares about is developing his fighters.
I've been up to that gym, actually. I've come up to see you guys before when you was training up there, and the first thing that I got from going in their gym, you'll appreciate this, with the gyms that we used to train in, it was like so old school, it was like going back in time, and it was so refreshing because you saw it and it was a boxing gym. There's not many of them left no more.
No, I know.
And the way that your dad went around there and the way that he was operating it all was like, it was very impressive, because I go, love that. And you listen to what he's telling fighters and what it is, and you can see the passion in there as well. It's like, you're very fortunate in the world that we live in today, with the way that gyms have changed, that you've still got that raw, old school sort of gym.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Could I just give a little shout out to my son, Simon, actually? Because my son's boxing.
Yeah.
He's in Team GB. He used to be in did you train with him?
What's his name?
Ellis Trowbridge?
No, he came on after me.
Oh, okay.
He came on after.
So he's just boxed in the World Championship yesterday, actually. He lost in the second round.
Right.
You know,
what weight class?
Yeah, he's a bantamweight. Yeah, little bantamweight like me. I'm only little. He's only little. Do you know what I mean? But he's better than I am. To be honest, no, he's little southpaw.
That's very high praise if that's indeed the case.
No, I've seen him. He's talented.
Is he?
Yeah.
Good luck to him. Good luck to him. Shout out, done. Before we close off a section about you, Dalton, and move on to something else, here's a question that the producers want me to ask, which is invariably going to get in your tits a little bit, about Adam Azim. There was a lot of indexing of you and Adam Azim together. I think that ship has sailed now. Clearly it has, because you're fighting for a world title.
Yeah.
Just as an opinion on Adam's development over the last year, what have you made of his progress?
No, I'm joking. I think he developed well. Look, take nothing away, Adam's a great fighter.
Yeah.
Adam is a great fighter. And like you say, everyone's, it's Dalton Azim, they don't like each other. Look, I'll give credit where it's due. I think he's developed well. I still think he's nowhere near ready for me. But I think he's going to develop into a good fighter. You know, time will tell. Same as me, I'm not the fighter I am now. I'm different to when I was 22.
I never wanted that fight, did you? I never wanted Adam Azim versus Dalton Smith. I wanted Adam Azim versus Dalton Smith if they both won world titles.
It was too soon for that, but they were at one point at a collision course.
Rivals,
So
yeah.
it looked like it was
But I
going to
didn't
happen.
want it,
but
did you?
no,
I wanted two
didn't.
British fights to go on and be successful and then maybe meet in the middle something for
totally
one of the
agree.
belts.
If Dalton wins the world title, is that a possibility?
Well,
would you defend? Would you defend against him?
Oh, would you think it's? Do you think he deserved the shot?
Last week we had Jai Opetaia on the Boxing Hour talking about Chris Billam-Smith. Let's have a listen to what Jai actually had to say.
Once I do what I got to do against Chris Billam-Smith, you know, I feel like I just won't be denied. You know, they have to give me the shot. You know, everyone always talks about, you know, he wasn't ready, he's too early, he's not good enough. But Billam-Smith I respect, you know, so I've been told there's a budget, he can have the whole thing. There's a $1 million budget, right? A $1 million budget to be on an undercard of Eubank and Ben between me and Chris Billam-Smith. And they offered it 50-50, right? So he said, I'm not fighting Jai unless I get a mil. Well, take the mil.
Yeah.
Take the mil.
That Jai first time rounds. We got it. We got that on the first bounce. We got that on the first bounce. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, these heavyweights they're always going to be there. This unification opportunity to call myself undisputed will never. That once I
That's
got
what
the
you want.
heavyweight, it's
That's
gone.
what you want.
It's gone.
And I might
But
be
once I tick that box as an undisputed cruiserweight champion,
right,
then I can look my life and go, bruv, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't want to look back and go, you know, I wish
Whoops, there was another one.
Hey.
Jai, we're running out. What we have here is a dump button, and we've exhausted the number of dumps we've got.
Yeah, as Jim was explaining it, Jai decided to drop the F-bomb as regularly as he possibly could. I like Jai Opetaia. I mean, he's an elite fighter. I like the way he speaks. But this Chris Billam-Smith fight, he respects Chris Billam-Smith. We all think that Jai Opetaia is a brilliant fighter. But there's also this question in my mind about the fights that he's been in, because he keeps on getting matched against levels that are way beneath him. Ellis Soro, Jordan Thompson, and whoever else we can, Jack Massey, with all due respect to them. And the only fights that we've really seen him sort of stretched in was Maris Breedis, both times round. He wants this undisputed. He wants it more than anything else, because part of the questioning I was asking of him, getting up to heavyweights to get paid, because we're hearing a guy talking about fighting, you know, for $1 million. With due respect, in the world of boxing and some of the purses that are out there, $1 million isn't huge money for someone of his potential stature. What do you make of this Billam-Smith fight? It didn't seem to. It's not for a belt, so it doesn't help him get to an undisputed. Zurdo Ramirez is the one fight. He's fighting a 40-year-old German on the weekend. That he's going to, or sooner rather than later, not on the weekend. That he'll walk through. Even Mick Francis, his trainer, saying he's going to walk through that. Pick the bones out of this Chris Billam-Smith.
I was surprised he said it, if I'm totally honest, because Billam-Smith's not bringing anything to the table. He's shown his appetite to become undisputed. I understand that as a fighter. He's always spoke about wanting to become undisputed before moving up to heavyweight. All those cruiserweights now are making that jump, and they have gone up to heavyweight. And I go, look, unless you get the Gilberto Ramirez fight, the Zurdo Ramirez fight, you go, then move up. But even if you're chasing that fight, you go globally. You know, where do you sell that globally? You go, the bigger fights for him, and the current crop of heavyweights that are coming through now, you're talking about Moses and all them, they're not the biggest heavyweights like we've had with Fury and Joshua and whatnot. You go, so it makes sense surely for him to jump up to heavyweight now, because I think he's a danger in the heavyweight division, by the way. I don't know what you guys think.
Why is he chasing the Chris Billam-Smith fight
when
he doesn't hold a belt?
Well, that's what I said to him.
It makes no sense.
But that's what I said to him. And I asked him the question, and didn't seem to get much of an answer. He rates Chris Billam-Smith, and I think what he wants to do, from my judgment call, is besides rounding up all the belts, but he wants to beat everyone that's in the division that's worth beating.
They'll avoid him like the plague, surely.
Well, no, the Billam-Smith fight is on the table for the undercard of Ben and Eubank. That fight's on the table. And what he's saying is there's $1 million on it. He's saying have the whole lot, mate.
Yeah, but
just take it. But I think
he takes that. That fight still won't happen.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying I think Simon's right in what he says. I think he wants to clean up that division so that you go like Usyk was when Usyk jumps up. Usyk goes, well, there's no one left
to say that he's beaten
no one
everybody.
left.
Yeah,
and he can just jump up and try.
How would you see? I mean, how would you boys see I mean, obviously, Chris Billam-Smith did brilliantly well to win the world title against the Coley. Then defended it against Mastinak, made that a harder fight than it potentially needed to be, but came through it. Dealt with Richard Riakporhe, and Richard didn't really turn up in that fight, with all due respect, did he?
No.
And then in the first round against Gilberto.
Yeah.
Where'd you Gilberto from?
Gilberto. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you want to throw it in there with an accent
Gilbert
now?
and Sullivan.
Oh, sorry,
Gilberto.
mate. Sorry, mate.
How do we see a fight between Opetaia and Billam-Smith coming out?
I think there's
Well,
only.
I mean, I like Chris. I want the best for him. He's a lovely fella.
And I think he's got a great, he shows great character in the ring, but there's only one winner there. Opetaia is a clear favourite going into that one. It's not a fight I'd like to see for Chris.
No.
I think that if he wants to work his way back into contention, I think that, not going straight in with Jai Opetaia is not the great move.
What do we think about Opetaia going into the heavyweights? Because obviously...
Makes an impact, Simon.
But we all
Makes
know
an
you
immediate
get
impact.
paid in heavyweights, right?
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield, we've all read the stories of Evander Holyfield fighting for the cruiserweight championship of the world, getting paid $300,000 or $400,000. First fight in the heavyweights against whoever he fought, 2 or 3 million. So we know the scale of financial opportunity. Isn't the timing of Jai going into the heavyweights of paramount importance? Because if he goes in 18 months' time, we'll have a fully formed Moses Itauma against a landscape now where the opportunity might just be there. Usyk is not going to be around for much longer, I suspect. So the opportunity to go in there and take a world title might be sooner rather than later. Yet Jai doesn't seem to be in the slightest mindful of
rush,
that.
is he?
Well, we've got to remember, it takes time to adjust. We're talking about adjusting into that. So you go, let's say if he does that tomorrow and he goes into the heavyweight division, it's going to take him 18 months before he develops, like it did with Usyk. We saw Usyk's first fight, or second fight against Derek Chisora.
No, he's older than that. I think he's in his very early 30s.
Yeah, Jai's 30, 31, I think, something like that. So you go, if you're going to do that, you've proven
No miles on the clock, though,
You've
is there?
proven
Besides
it.
Breeders.
He's as fresh as a daisy, isn't he?
30.
Yeah, he's as
30.
fresh as a daisy.
Yeah. Only miles
I think
on
he
the clock
goes
of
to the
Breeders,
heavyweight
aren't they?
division and makes a big impact.
He is.
Do you think he goes into the heavyweights, irrespective of what I've just said? Because we're talking about him going into the heavyweights, growing into being a heavyweight. You're saying it takes 18 months, in the same way that perhaps Usyk took the fight against Chaz Witherspoon and took it against Derek Chisora, learnt his trade in the heavyweights, and then fought Anthony Joshua.
He makes an impact. He makes an impact in the heavyweights for sure. And I think Turkey
Wins the world
Al-Sheikh
title?
didn't Turkey Al-Sheikh call for Derek Chisora versus Jai Opetaia at heavyweight. I believe that's a fight that he's called for. To be fair, yeah, he mentioned that fight, and you go, that's sort of like
world title winner at heavyweights.
I think, I think he could win a world title.
Absolutely, he wins
Yeah.
a world championship heavyweight.
One of the things that we took away, myself and Jim, listening to Jai, was the motivation. He wants to be the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. He's prepared to put that over the top of the financial rewards that he can get. He did something contradictory about 18 months ago when he gave up the IBF belt, didn't he? And took a fight in Saudi to get the money. And I understand that, with due respect to him. But his motivation now seems to be, as he said, let Chris Billam-Smith take the full £1 million if he wants to. That wasn't quite the language he used, but you know what I mean. Do you think there's something refreshing about that, Don? Do we think we need to see more fighters that think that way? I'm particularly looking at Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn that are in pursuit of nothing besides a big bag of money, which isn't nothing, it's significant, but no besides family bragging rights, but no belt at the end of it. Do you think Jai Opetaia's attitude and outlook is the sort of attitude and outlook which you see a bit more of?
Yeah, I think every fighter's attitude should be to go and achieve and fight for belts. But also, while you're fighting for the belts, the money should be there.
Yeah.
Like I said, for what us fighters do, we need to financially come out of boxing, safe.
Absolutely right.
Like I say, it's all right entertaining people.
Commensurate with your level, yeah.
It's all right entertaining people on TV. We're the ones taking the punches at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Our ambitions are to go and achieve his dreams, win world titles, become undisputed, but also we do it to earn a lot of cash. Do you know what I mean? That's why we do it.
You like the attitude from him?
Yeah, listen, when all boxers turn professional, Simon, the first thing you want to do is to win a championship.
Yeah.
You want to become a world champion. But obviously that passion soon turns to the financial reward.
Commercial reality.
Yeah, once you realise your worth and you know what it is you're actually worth, then you won't paying for it.
Absolutely.
And that's how it should be.
Absolutely.
Should get paid for it.
And what Dalton says is absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you're commensurate with your level,
Yeah.
if you're a world champion, whatever weight class that you're at, you should get paid. You should be able to come out of the sport with the right amount of money to be able to look after your life the rest of the time.
Yep.
Right, that's it for episode 137. Thanks, Spence. Thanks, Duke. Thanks, Dalton.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time we're out.